So let me remind you of what happened behind closed doors.
Well, you should ask O'Connor about my credibility.
I haven't asked you a question. Okay?
You are?
When I haven't. So when I ask you a question, that's when you answer. Otherwise, I'm talking. So.
Excuse me?
Well, you the one talking about.
I think your fake eyelashes are messing up.
No, ain't nothing.
Hold on.
Listen.
Order.
Mr. Chairman,
That's beneath even order.
All right, folks. This situation could ripple far beyond street drama and might even reach Capitol Hill. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett now finds herself under serious pressure, and the latest developments in Texas could shape the course of her political career. Why? Because Republicans have redrawn the congressional maps, shifting the balance of power. And guess what? Her own seat is on shaky ground. That's right, in this calculated game of political chess, her district is shrinking, leaving her with less support and fewer options.
I'm debating about whether or not I will run where they put me, which is where I live. Yeah.
In 33.
In 33.
Congresswoman Crockett has served in the 30th congressional seat since January 2023, and her district is mostly in Dallas County, but also has some in Tarrant County. While the boundaries of her district would change, it's still considered a Democratic majority seat and will have a majority of African Americans.
Now, you might be wondering why all this matters.
Since January 2023, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett has represented the 30th congressional district. Most of her base lies in Dallas County, with a small portion stretching into Tarrant County. While the proposed redistricting would reshape those boundaries, the district would still lean heavily Democratic and remain majority African American. But why does this matter? Because redistricting isn't just about shifting lines on a map. It has the power to reshape political influence itself. From federal legislation to local policies, the ripple effects can be massive. This isn't routine paperwork. It's a political earthquake. And one thing's for sure.
Crockett.
I'm just curious, just to better understand your ruling. If someone on this committee then starts talking about somebody's bleach blonde, bad built butch body, that would not be engaging in personalities, correct?
What now?
Chairman, I make a motion to strike those words.
I don't think that's
Hold on.
part of
I'm trying to find clarification on what
Chairman,
qualifies.
motion to strike
I had no
those
idea
words.
what you just said.
We're not gonna do this. Look, you guys earlier literally just
You just voted to do it. You just voted to do it.
Order.
I'm trying to get clarification.
Look at calm down.
No, because this is what y'all do. So I'm trying to get
Ms. Crockett,
clarification.
you're not ready.
Crockett isn't the type to fold under pressure. She's determined, relentless, and ready to fight for her seat. Crockett argues that this move by the GOP goes far beyond routine redistricting. She calls it outright political sabotage. To her, it's clear this isn't just about lines on a map. The stakes are high, the pressure is real, and the battle is about survival. Now, the big question is, what's her next step? Does she relocate to a new district and rebuild from scratch? Or does she hold her ground and fight for the territory she already knows best?
Crockett said she wants to have a conversation with her current constituents and her Democratic colleagues in Congress about the situation they face.
Does Mark VC fit better into 30 now because it does have some Tarrant or not? And does Julie just kind of fit better at running in 33 than me? And is my district going to be okay with me running and being on this fixed government income and therefore not buying a home in the newly constructed 30? Obviously, I don't have to live there under federal rules.
Right.
But I mean, some people want somebody that lives in the district. And then obviously I want to talk to my colleagues and say what kind of makes sense so that at least hopefully two of us have the best shot at.
This is one political drama you won't want to miss. So if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Your support helps me keep bringing you stories like this, and I'm truly grateful for it. Just like with Jasmine Crockett's situation, you'll be the first to hear every twist and turn in these unfolding sagas. Because right now, her career is standing at a crossroads. With Republicans redrawing the district lines and stripping away her seat in District 30, Crockett has been pushed into making tough, fast decisions. The only question left is, what's next for her? One thing's for sure, this story is far from over.
So much, Mr. Chair. Before I begin my questioning, I want to remind everyone that the information recorded in the FBI Form 1023 that my Republican colleagues keep citing is not evidence of anything. This form reflects years-old, secondhand, unverified information from a Ukrainian oligarch as relayed to the FBI by a confidential human source. These unverified secondhand allegations have been repeatedly debunked and undermined, including by the confidential human source who relayed this information to the FBI. The tip recorded in the Form 1023 was thoroughly explored by the U.S. attorney handpicked by Donald Trump, which was Attorney General William Barr, and the assessment was closed. Finally, Devin Archer, Hunter Biden's former business partner who worked with the Ukrainian oligarch in question, told this committee in a transcribed interview in July that he had no knowledge of any such payments allegedly described in this form. Repeating the same lies will not somehow turn them into truths. Kind of like the election that Trump lost. Say it with me. He lost it. Repeating the same lie that he won wasn't going to turn the election around. The lost in this chamber keep pushing lies and lunacy on behalf of a multi-time loser. So if we're gonna talk about China, let's go ahead and talk about China, and let's talk about the dealings. And let me point out the fact that right now each of you has admitted that none of you are fact witnesses. We walked in without facts, and unfortunately, because what we say isn't necessarily evidence, we have wasted the American people's time, and we are going to walk out of this chamber and we still have no facts that are leading to anything. But let me give y'all a little bit of tea while we're here. So I have a document that I will ask for unanimous consent to enter into the record. It's a fact sheet on President Trump's shady business dealings with the Chinese government.
Passing laws is already tough enough, so imagine trying to do it while the political ground beneath you keeps shifting.
Thank you so much. Texas on top of Texas. Very interesting. My colleague just mentioned that we should talk about facts instead of fallacy. So I do want to make sure that we address a couple of facts, starting with the fact that Republicans claim to be pro-life, but they're anything but. Considering the fact that we just had a woman and her 2 children that died, they drowned in the state of Texas because our governor decided that federal authorities should not be allowed to actually try to save those people.
Mr. Chairman, could you instruct the member to not use profanity to interrupt other members?
And can we not keep running down my time?
We'll hold your time. You'll get it back. Remind members to have decorum during the hearing today. Ms. Crockett, you may continue. Please restore 10 seconds to her time.
The fact is, these people died at our border in Texas on Friday. We are here today having a hearing, and the pro-life party does not want to talk about the fact that there was basically state-issued or sanctioned death at the Texas border. There can be nothing more inhumane than the fact that we have not even decided that we were going to discuss this on the pro-life side. But you know what? I do want to talk about some other facts that we have. Republicans can't do the basic job that we are supposed to do. You see, in 2 days, we are scheduled to shut down. They can't figure out how to do a budget because we're 6 months behind, but somehow they are going to solve this complex issue of immigration. I seriously.
Right now, Jasmine Crockett is scrambling to come up with a backup plan. The moment the new maps were announced, she erupted, accusing Republicans of using gerrymandering to strip minority communities of their voice at the ballot box. In her view, this redistricting isn't just politics as usual. It's an old strategy in a new package designed to dismantle the very causes she's been fighting for. And whether you agree with her or not, there's no denying one thing. Redistricting always creates winners and losers. This time, Crockett is on the losing side, but she isn't taking the loss quietly. Instead, she's seriously weighing a move to District 33. Yes, you heard that right. She's openly considering switching districts to keep her political future alive. Still, this path is anything but simple. She's not a stranger to District 33, but while it remains a Democratic seat, there's no guarantee she'll command the same level of support she enjoyed in District 30. A new district means new rivals and different dynamics, which makes the climb even steeper. And here's where things get complicated. By making this move, Crockett has opened herself up to heavy criticism. Detractors and even some former allies are questioning her commitment. Is she truly fighting for the people or just fighting to save her career? The optics aren't easy to shake. To many, hopping from one district to another feels like political survival, not public service. Her critics argue she's more interested in chasing headlines and viral moments than rolling up her sleeves to tackle the hard, messy work of lawmaking. The accusation is clear. Crockett is putting her own career above her constituents and taking the easy way out instead of standing firm on principle.
To quote a great known as Riri, also known as Rihanna, how about we give a round of applause, a standing ovation, because we have absolutely had nothing more than performative politics. In fact, my Texas colleague just finished his comments by specifically talking about the election in November and who's going to.
All right, here's the point. When Crockett speaks on this, you can tell she means it. She's repeatedly stressed the racial implications of the redistricting effort, framing it as not just an attack on her seat, but on the community she represents. To her, this fight is bigger than politics. It's about standing against gerrymandering, which too often protects power at the expense of minority voices and making sure representation actually reflects the people.
Mayor, now recognize Ms. Crockett for 1 minute, or 5 minutes.
1 minute. All right. First of all, Mr. Bobulinski, do you know who Elections LLC is? Yeah.
Well, it's not a who.
Okay. Well, do you know what it is?
Yes, it's a LLC.
Okay. And is it the LLC that your attorney works for?
I believe so, yes.
You believe so. Okay. So at this point in time, I'd ask unanimous consent to enter into the record a document indicating that the law firm representing Tony Bobulinski was paid $10,000 as recently as January of this year by the Save America PAC, which you may recognize as Donald Trump's PAC.
Without objection.
Thank you. Now, so far in this hearing, it has felt like the worst episode of The Apprentice. I'm sure you're familiar with that show. It seems like my colleagues and maybe you and some others are trying to become the next vice president of the United States of America. You're auditioning or something like that. I want to be clear that when we were behind closed doors, you called a number of people liars. You called the Wall Street Journal liars. You called Cassidy Hutchinson a liar. You called the FBI a liar. You called Rob Walker a liar. You called James Gilliar a liar. You called Hunter Biden a liar. You called Jim Biden a liar. And just today, you added to your list, you called my colleague, Congressman Mr. Goldman, a liar as well. It seems like, according to you, the only person that's telling the truth is you and everyone else is lying. But I want to move on to something else.
Is that a question?
It's not a question.
Okay.
You'll know when I ask you a question.
Crockett has never been shy about speaking her mind. Love her or hate her, her blunt, often controversial remarks have made her a lightning rod for attention. And in this case, they only add more fuel to the drama. But while the headlines capture the fire, the reality on the ground is much tougher. If she makes the jump to a new district, she'll need to win over people who don't know her the same way District 30 did. Local dynamics can change everything. What worked once may not work again. And with accusations of gerrymandering still looming over her, every meeting with voters becomes a test. Can she listen, connect, and convince them that she's the best person for the job? Meanwhile, the political pressure doesn't let up. If anything, the walls are closing in tighter.
What are you entering in? A record from who?
This is from the Congressional Integrity.
Congressional Integrity Project, the dark money PAC?
I object.
I object to that too.
Of course y'all gonna object, but we gonna talk about it. So, it says Trump has extensive financial ties to the Chinese government. President Trump collected millions from Chinese government-owned entities while in office. I have the best tenants in the world, President Trump was well aware of the multi-million-dollar lease to Chinese interests. President Trump promised to donate foreign government
government profits while in office, but he donated less than a third of his proceeds from the Chinese government. President Trump maintained 3 foreign bank accounts while in office, including one in China. President Trump's business with China raised legal and ethical concerns. President Xi loves the people of China. He loves his country, and he's doing a very good job. Let me tell you something. I don't want to talk about what y'all want to act like is some big mystery, because we keep sitting here and Professor Gerhardt, just to be clear, as my colleagues have even tried to provide evidence, which they're not the ones to provide evidence, have you ever heard them say if, since we've been sitting here for I don't know how long?
Yes, I've been taking a tally.
Oh, okay. Can you show us? Can you tell us what the tally is?
More than 35 times, the Republican witnesses and Republican members of the committee have used the word if.
Thank you so much for that. Because honestly, if they would continue to say if or Hunter and we were playing a drinking game,
Beyond Texas, Democrats across the country are taking notes. Crockett's response to this redistricting battle could become a blueprint or a warning for other lawmakers trapped in newly carved GOP strongholds. Is she exposing the dangers of gerrymandering, or will her strategy reveal new ways to fight back? In many ways, Crockett has become a test case. Her fight is drawing the attention of minority rights groups, anti-gerrymandering advocates, and grassroots activists nationwide. And thanks to her knack for framing the narrative, her political survival saga is spreading fast on social media. But that spotlight cuts both ways. Public opinion can be a weapon of incredible power, or a hammer that crushes you. If the tide is with her, she becomes a symbol of resistance. If it turns against her, the backlash could be brutal.
If the gentleman has opposition and has an offer to define actively assisting, then that would be great. But the reality is that what's going to happen is what we've seen happen in the state of Texas, where we have a governor who has murders on his hand, as far as I'm concerned, because we've had active deaths at the hands of mishandling this. If this is going to be a federal issue, then the federal government needs to be the ones that are absolutely going to be over federal law.
it's so weird because my colleagues on the other side of the aisle wanted to call this hearing. This is not our first, it's not our second. I've actually lost count myself of how many IRS hearings we're having. And they seemingly feel like they can fix your very complicated issues, but somehow they aren't good at simple math that would get them to a speaker, you know, right. So we've been 3 weeks without one. Mr. Bobulinski, I know that you take exception to the fact that your credibility has been called into question over and over, but when someone comes to testify under oath, whether it's before this committee, behind closed doors, or in person, then we have to evaluate someone's credibility. And sir, I definitely have always had issues with your credibility, as I know that you are very well aware of. So let me remind you of what happened behind closed doors.
Well, you should ask Rokana about my credibility.
I haven't asked you a question. Okay?
You are?
When I haven't. So when I ask you a question, that's when you answer. Otherwise, I'm talking.
If Crockett fails to steer through these turbulent political waters, she risks being consumed by the very fire that once elevated her voice. Think about it. What does it take to walk that razor's edge between the hard, grinding work of legislating and the flashy performance of public politics? That's the balancing act Crockett is trapped in right now. Critics claim she's all spectacle, light on substance, a dangerous label for any politician trying not just to survive, but to thrive. Her fiery sound bites win headlines, but detractors argue they mask a lack of deeper strategy. Even so, her loyal base praises her relentless pushback against Republican gerrymandering, rallying behind her passion. But here's the real test. Will that loyalty carry over into a new district where she must win over fresh voters and prove herself all over again? Crockett knows the stakes. That's why she isn't moving blindly. She's openly consulting voters, trusted colleagues, and Democratic leaders to weigh her next move carefully.
When we start talking about things that look like evidence, they want to act like they blind. They don't know what this is. These are our national secrets. Looks like in the to me. This looks like more evidence of our national secrets, say on the stage at Mar-a-Lago. My colleagues on the other side of the aisle want to grandstand for political purposes rather than work with Democrats and fix an immigration system that has been broken for decades. Republicans continue to vilify people, including mothers and their children. And as I just said, we just lost a mother and her children. Honestly, I can't tell if y'all are for anything other than obstruction and cruelty. Just take a look at my governor last week. He said, and I quote, "The only thing we're not doing is we're not shooting people who come across the border because, of course, the Biden administration would charge us with murder." I know Governor Abbott doesn't understand the law, but let me say this, that absolutely would be murder. I don't want us to base anything on Georgia at all. Please, Jesus, not Georgia. Okay, because Georgia purged 87,000.
Will the gentlewoman yield? I think Georgia matters.
I will not yield. I am reclaiming my time.
This is a ridiculous expectation, so ridiculous as to raise the suspicion that it's intended solely to render the bill unworkable and meaningless. This amendment would serve only to challenge law enforcement who are properly doing their job to stop smugglers and illegal aliens from terrorizing their community.
Jasmine Crockett's looming fight over redistricting is more than just a legal or electoral technicality. It's a test of political survival wrapped in the language of principle. On one hand, her sharp critiques of the GOP's map could resonate as an authentic defense of minority communities, many of whom view these redistricting efforts as systematic attempts to dilute their power. If framed correctly, Crockett could present herself as a defender of representation itself, expanding her political capital well beyond her immediate district. On the other hand, skeptics argue that her stance is less about civic duty and more about self-preservation, a fight to preserve her own seat and influence. That perception matters because if her campaign narrative leans too heavily on personal grievance rather than broader community stakes, she risks alienating the very voters she claims to protect. Furthermore, Crockett is now caught in a delicate balance. Wage too aggressive a battle, and she could provoke backlash from moderates and political insiders. Hesitate, and she risks looking weak or disengaged. The coming weeks will reveal whether she can convert this obstacle into a platform to sharpen her identity as a progressive fighter, or whether the struggle exposes cracks in her strategy and messaging. Ultimately, her decisions in this redistricting saga will set the tone for her political trajectory. Either she emerges as a bold advocate, unafraid to challenge systemic injustices, or she becomes yet another politician whose defiance is perceived as calculated self-interest. The distinction lies not only in how she fights, but also in how convincingly she ties her personal battle to the broader struggle of the communities she represents. This is the crossroads where Crockett must prove whether her rhetoric of resistance is truly anchored in principle or merely in survival.